Hello everybody, welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, bringing you a brand new review, and today I'm talking about Furiosa, which is released in cinemas this Friday, and I guess we can say is the fifth entry in the Mad Max series. Of course, a prequel film based on Furiosa from Mad Max Fury Road, starring Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth, and I have a lot to say on this one. I've been very fortunate. I was able to see this film last night at a press screening, and I'm also going to say this is the first camera review I think I've done in maybe 6-7 weeks, and I'm going to use this opening to once again thank anyone that's messaged me over this time, that's looked out for me, Tate for covering the channel, and a few other things too. So to anybody that's been helping, thank you so much. It's weird talking to the camera again. I've done a few videos here and there, thanks to everyone that's joined me on those smaller videos as well. But I'm here doing another review, and it's interesting with this one because it's spoiler free. It's a prequel, you know where things are going to go, but I'm going to avoid talking about direct moments or character things you might not know about. I haven't actually seen many trailers for this film. I think maybe one that was shown before a film in IMAX, maybe before Planet of the Apes. So I've actually tried to go in cold because, to me, Mad Max Fury Road is one of the greatest action films ever made. And sort of headlining, going into my thoughts on the Mad Max films, before Fury Road, I was familiar with the original Mad Max trilogy, the second being my favourite, the first a film I enjoy very much, and unfortunately the third film, whilst I like little bits from it, I like the world, I like the costumes, I never gravitated to that film. So I've got a really interesting relationship with the Mad Max series, even going back to when I was like 12, 13, a teacher used to talk about it all the time, and I haven't played the game. That's a reminder. I'm on Fallout 4 at the moment, so I'm probably not going to play anything else for a while, but when Furiosa was announced, I kind of wondered, like, okay, a prequel, okay, I get it. I'd rather have had a Mad Max 5. I know that is being spoken about still, and obviously George Miller, this is, to me, his universe. I absolutely adore what he does with these films, what he's done with these films. I mentioned Fallout a few minutes ago. So many things are inspired to me by Mad Max, certainly the second film that have followed in the decade since. And I just think it's really exciting to be back at the Wasteland, having another film set there. Yes, it's a prequel. Yes, it's Furiosa, but there was so much going for it for me heading into this film. And kind of giving my initial thoughts on this, I really did enjoy this film. It's nice to be back at the cinema, at the big screen. It's Mad Max. It's an action film. What more do you want for an IMAX? And given the success of Fury all those years ago, there is that underlying narrative, like, could George Miller do it again? Could we have this another insane action sequence film? What could this be about? And I'm going to try and split this review up somewhat into a character area and a action area, because while some criticisms of Mad Max Fury Road are the film doesn't have much storytelling or much purpose or narrative, I do disagree with that, but I understand those criticisms. At the same time, people thought, could Furiosa, it's a prequel, is it just going to be another 2-hour action film, etc., etc.? And I'm glad to say it wasn't. Now, I don't need another Fury Road. I love this Mad Max universe we're in, and I love Fury Road so much as its own thing. The experience watching that for the first time was honestly like up there with the likes of Top Gun Maverick, with your Force Awakens, those big cinematic moments, the films you always remember, the films you think about. I had that with Fury Road back in 2015, and kind of with this one, I haven't had the highs of Fury Road, but I am very much in awe of this. Because you do have those action sequences from Fury. You do have these amazing, amazing sequences, whether it's a tracking shot, whether it's going to be practical stunts, which we know George Miller will do, whether it's going to be the insane costumes or the designs. It feels like a Mad Max film from the get-go. Now, I say it feels like a Mad Max film. Obviously, Max isn't in this, being spoiler-free, of course. So it's weird to call it Furiosa still, but to me, it is a Mad Max film without Mad Max. So in a ranking, it would still be there. And I'll probably talk about that towards the end too, but a really interesting thing for this, with no Mad Max, you have Furiosa, a really interesting character. Of course, Charlize Theron played her incredibly. A character I didn't necessarily want to know more about, but I was curious by the announcement. And you cast Anya Taylor-Joy, who is one of the up-and-coming stars. I mean, she's already a star, let's be honest. We've seen her briefly cameo in Dune Part 2, but look at the role she's done over the years. Peaky Blinders, Queen's Gambit. There's so many great films that she's been in, great shows as well. To see her in this lead role as Furiosa is perfect casting. And again, I was curious by the how do we get to these points from Mad Max, because I love a prequel film. I'm not just talking about Star Wars. I love prequels. I've been rewatching the Planet of the Apes recently, the reboot, the Andy Serkis ones, of course. And I really enjoy when you can have a film that still wants to tell its own story without making it as blatantly obvious as A to B to C, ready for D, which is the film. And there's a certain art to it, and this comes in at 2.5 hours, split up into individual chapters. And again, you've got to also be a Mad Max film. You've got to talk about the Wasteland. We've got to see things, and what this really does, not just being a Furiosa prequel. This is truly a Fury Road prequel. This story is not just about Furiosa out for revenge. This story is about the politics of the Wasteland, how Immortan Joe has risen to have this empire, this loyalist, how he maintains control over the places he works with, the people he works with, and it's a really interesting relationship it tries to explore with the Wasteland. It's not something I thought we'd get coming in, so that sort of film nerd in me that loves these expanded universe type things, that wants to know more about Gas Town or Bullet Farm, the things that were spoken about in 2015 that we never got to see. This film does a phenomenal job at exploring that, but never losing sense of its place of story, of its place of action. And it does deliver on both of those fronts. Now, I'm not going to obviously go through any spoilers on the Furiosa side of things, but if you're curious about her life and how she became the person from Mad Max Fury Road, yes, this film delivers this film delivers it in 2.5 hours, as it should, as it's expected. At the same time of that, this film is also delivering some of the best action sequences of the year. Something we also expected from Mad Max Fury Road, and I think that balance between the two is really what did it for me. The runtime may put some people off. They may think, does it need to be this long? But I, for one, had a great time with that, and I loved what they were able to do with this film. And one of the big things of this film isn't just Anya Taylor-Joy, who's phenomenal. Chris Hemsworth working with George Miller. A combo I've been looking forward to since it was first announced. For some reason, when the film was announced, I thought Hemsworth was playing Immortan Joe, like a young Immortan Joe, and I was like, oh, are we getting a Hook type thing? Not Hook, sorry, the one from 10 years ago with Hugh Jackman singing Nirvana, but it's set in the 90s. Anyway, Pan, that's the one. So I was worried we were going to get a Pan type film, but the theme, Chris Hemsworth, and a lot of people obviously look at his role as Thor. He's in so many great dramatic roles as well. Rush is one of my favourite films of all time. Him working on another action film that isn't Marvel, I thought was phenomenal. Being able to lean into the incredible comedy vibe that he brings to films, alongside his physicality for certain action sequences and his natural charisma. It's a match made in heaven for him to be in this Wasteland. Not just the fact he's Australian and working with an Australian director too. His commitment to this, seeing the prosthetics, the makeups. Yes, we can see it's Chris Hemsworth, but I feel that he's not just giving it his all, and that's not like a great thing. Every actor should give it their all in every film, but for the first time in a long time, I was looking at Hemsworth and not thinking, oh, it's Thor doing this, it's Thor doing that. The character of Dementus, I love. He's kind of an idiot, but Hemsworth has that charisma that you can kind of despise and like him at the same time. Just a truly, truly awful person. And he elevates the Wasteland so much more because we get a look into the politics of how he's raised his power, how he stayed in his power, how Immortan Joe's in his. We get to see the War Boys, we get Furiosa in the middle of all of this. I think it's a really phenomenal way of doing it, and I've just got to give credit to George Miller. I love these trailers, they call him like the visionary, all these sorts of things. Let him keep making whatever he wants to make for the next few years. If he does Mad Max 5, let him do Mad Max 5. I just love spending time in this universe, and I will say I do have a couple of negatives with this film. There's a few bumpy moments with certainly visual effects treatment, and I sort of said that when the trailer first came out. There's a couple of ropey looking things, but I can forgive that sort of stuff when I'm not only invested in the film, but the action sequences are so good. And the one thing I always laugh at, and I think it's something people dislike, but the Mad Max films have always had those weird sped up footage cuts, and I quite like that. This film continues that trend as it has for many decades, but there are a couple of things. It's not the perfect film. It isn't Mad Max Fury Road. It was never going to be Mad Max Fury Road. It's not set out to be Fury Road, but it's still a film I think you're going to have a lot of enjoyment with at the cinema, and it is certainly one to see at the cinema. Again, the visuals and the sound, they're the two draws to this. It's not just a typical, see it on the big screen, it's the big screen. This is one where the filmmaker shooting on location in the deserts of Australia, it lends itself to that big screen experience. Having these monster vehicles with these humongous wheels like monster trucks. Then you've got bike sequences, great camera work with incredible action choreography. This is a film I'm looking forward to revisiting. Now, I don't know when I'm going to revisit it. There's a lot happening at the moment, but I certainly will be. I'll be probably trying out the Mad Max game. I think it came out about 7-8 years ago, so I should have played it before, but this is one I'm going to look back to, and maybe after I've rewatched the Planet of the Apes films, I'll give it another go, rewatching the Mad Max. I guess we could say the quadrilogy first, but that is going to do it for this review. So thank you for everyone's patience. This is the first review back. There will be more reviews to come. The Acolyte starts. There'll be some videos next week on the channel. There'll be videos when it starts airing the week after then. We've got Doctor Who every Tuesday. There's a lot happening, so do stick around. Do join us. Thank you all for watching, for supporting it, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.